Alrighty, let's go ahead and start a new stream here. We're going to continue off essentially where I was last time. I did do a little bit of work, I think, since the last time. Should actually keep that open. Namely, what I'm working on now is figuring out how I'm going to set the mod file. So what I've done is the convert.python file now detects meshes that have libraries and essentially takes those library data and exports the objects into a .mod file like so, where it defines what the exported obj file was, what its linked name was, so that's basically the instance, and then any of the coordinate data. And this is reflecting what has or what Eqzip zone importer does, where you have definitions, which are .mod files, and then you have placements, and then those placements have their own unique names and, you know, 7 data points. So anyways, now that we got this going, I have to actually create a object loader for this. On the bright side, this code is already pretty much written, probably in model.lua. No, that's actually the GUI part. You can see here, this is defining all the model data. So if we go to obj, we are looking for, during export, let's see if we can find out how this works. It's not an export. I'm looking for the models. Pretty sure I just skipped it in the past. You can see here, importing model. But this is just the 3D data. Let's look for .mod and see what files reference this. There's a model.lua, which when you read, you get tear data and zone data, right? And here's how it imports. And here's how you delete. And here's the model list. And okay. Zone data.models equals names. Names is just a pair of model data and it just has their names in it. Okay. During load, this is adding in mod count, which is a field. There is a write mod command, which I assume is being used. Somewhere. Here. Okay. So in model.lua, there is a import model, and that actually does mod write. Why does it write? I see. So when you do an import through this, it actually will save the file. I really don't like his flow when it comes to how he writes out files. My question then is, when you edit it and you save, how is it saving the .mod files? Because, okay, check if the name is already in use. Or, and if so, go ahead and write data to the mod name. The mod name is the .mod of whatever the base name is. It does a CRC check. This is ultimately what I need to do to make the write. But this is only called during import. So when you like file save, it's not actually saving the model data that you modify. It's only when you import. That's weird. The other issue with this design is where are the definitions of the mods being referenced into the main object? That's the part I'm not so familiar with. Like, I'm trying to see where exactly the import that references this object to the zone. But nevertheless, let's go ahead and put in like this chunk, and we're going to put it in a little scratch paper on the very left. We're going to pin it actually. Okay, so now that we have the quote unquote mod file, let's see if we can figure out how we get these models in. See how it says models equals ter._name? And does models ever get written? Like zone data gets called during zone write, but I have a feeling that file okay, you can see here during write of zone files, all the models are defined. Also, what's the difference between a model and an object, by the way? I think an object is placement, and a model is a definition. Isn't that confusing? We can verify that here pretty quickly. So you can see that the data here for objects, name index. Okay. Okay. So if this is the case, when I define zone data in my main command, and we have models and we have objects, you'll notice one of the objects that it's defined is actually the terrain. But this needs to have new objects appended to it, and this is going to be based on my definition file. Okay, I'm starting to get this. So what we want to do is say objects equals, and then we're going to go ahead and define to start. And by the way, light data can just be lights. I called it light data at one point because I thought there was maybe a name collision going on. We can go ahead and delete that. Okay, so objects equals, and then we're going to define, first of all, the terrain. We always have to reference the terrain, but we're going to append additional ones based on the mod file, if it exists. So if the .mod file exists, we're going to go ahead and open it up line by line and start parsing it. We split it, and then we look at how the split looks. That's going to be in the other file, which is essentially this, right? This is going to have what? A split of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 entries. So we can fix that update. And what we're going to have to insert into objects is Okay, so this is interesting. Objects needs a reference to the model ID. So what we probably need to do also is go local models equals tername. But see, this isn't an array, is it? It is. See, model is plural with an object. Why is the object only defined as a single entity? What is terrain name? Isn't that just a string of its name? Tername, ter. Yeah, okay. I'm pretty sure what's happening is, like, here, these are all models. That's what the .mod is. And you'll notice the ter. And all models are really just definitions. So what I can do is go table.insert into models, a new entry of, I think I can just literally add this as its name, and that's going to be lines 1. Okay? We need to have a reference to the index as well. So we're going to have to do a lookup. I forget how to do lookups in... Is there like an if line in... I forget if there's a key value lookup in... I think I can just do this. Okay. We're going to say model ID equals models. Oh, for I name in models, do this. Local is model found equals false. If name equals lines 1, then is model found, or actually let's do model index equals -1. Model index equals I. If model index equals -1, then we do the insert. There. So now we've added in a index for the new model index. As we're importing, this will make like cube.obj or whatever, right? Then we have table insert. I might actually take out the .obj part, but I'm not going to worry about that just yet. Okay, so now we're inserting an object. The object has a name. How's this referencing, by the way? You see how it says model def? Model def is based on the def list, and the def list inserts based on various names. This is on models during a read of terrain data and zone data. So names is based on the models. I think it's just based on index. And there's an index ID, I think, in objects. So if that's the case, I think zone.cpp has a objects field. There it is, ID. That's what I need. So ID equals model index, right? And now we got to get X, Y, Z, this stuff over here. So X, Y, Z is 2, 3, 4. No, there is a name field as well, which I didn't copy, did I? Yes, there's a name field. So we'll do this. Name equals lines 2, comma, ID equals models index. Then it's 3, 4, 5. Now we have rotation X, Y, Z. 6, 7, 8. Then we have scale is 9. Okay, so we can take this out. I just use that for reference. We can go ahead and tab this once. And what we're doing is we take the mod file, we iterate it, we find out if there's entries. Once there is, we parse it, and the parsing takes lines 1, puts it as a model index, inserts it if it doesn't exist, otherwise it just references the old one. Found lines 1 as index. Okay. There. So in theory, I got to write convert. Command error. Attempt to call a table value on 145. Yeah. I think that's what I want. Attempt to call a table value is still the error. Let me double check it. Hit that. Attempt to call a table value. Isn't this going to iterate the models? What am I doing wrong with this? I think I gotta go for I equals 1. Models. Okay, so in theory it just worked. Added 2 models, 2 objects based on tutorial mod. Starting import. All right, so let's go ahead and open up another GUI. And verify this real quick. Open up my tutorial. All right, so you see cube.object references the model definition got jacked up. Let's see why. Found cube.object as index 0, index 2, I mean. I probably should do some string to lowercase. Found cube.object as index 2, added 2 models, 2 objects based on. I don't think it's index 2. I think it's... I think that's what I need to do. Okay. Found cube.object is index 1, right? Added 2 objects, 2 models based on tutorial, which that's always going to be the case because terrain and its definitions are also included. So let's go ahead and load this and see how this looks. So now model definition cube.obj, it's lowercase now, has a name of link cube, and tutorial B looks good. So in theory, I just got this working. Let's see. If it works, there's a cube that's floating that's being referenced from an external blend file and is now considered an instance, which is actually kind of cool. Because that means you can create this is a zone-based object instance. Once I get this solid, I'll probably add a flag for like underscore global to help you define global definitions where I'm not supposed to import the .mod file as well. We'll see here in a sec. I'm in Broodlands. I need to get to tutorial. Hey, Zergling. Quake 2 models. Does EQ have ray tracing now? What do you mean? Whoa, why did I say it's loading the nest? Oh, I think I have this still on a Lazarus zone. How goes Quake 2 models? Does EQ have ray tracing now? I'm not doing anything with Q2 models. Don't know. So let's log in through Lazarus client because that one I use for having full ROF2 files. Because apparently I'm in a zone I can't load on my client. So. This client takes forever to load. Nope. EQG uses a mod extension for imported models, but not in I think Q2 used like MDS or something. I forget what Quake 2 used. It's been a while. MDF or something like that. But I think they also had a .mod thingy, kind of similar to EQ's. But no, this is 100% a different thing. Okay, so we need to get back to tutorial B, and let's see if that cube exists. And if it's placed properly. Oh, yeah, that's right. He doesn't know what tutorial B looks like. I have to use my other client, because my other client actually loads tutorial B properly. I just had to zone over, is why I jumped on that client. Yeah, so the MOD is actually taking an external Blender file, which is actually this cube, and putting it into the new zone file. Let's see if this works. Not a good sign. If the cube would have been right here, because look, it's supposed to be to the right over here, across from the little waterfall I made. And you'll notice there is no cube. Okay. So I got something wrong. Either the coordinate data or something with how I'm referencing this is broken. What I'm gonna go ahead and do is compare it with how they do it. You'll notice they use OBJ prefixes everywhere. That might impact it, so let's look into that. In fact, for fun, let's just append it during the creation step. We can keep this the same and just put that in the definition, I guess. It's just one less thing we have to manage. Okay, so that means in this line, we can go ahead and put obj, and do the definitions also do anything weird? Yes. So let's try putting that in as well. So when we insert the entries into here, we're going to add a if something like that. Let's see if this converts proper. Two objects. Let's reload tutorial B real quick. So now you can see I have the prefix of obj and the prefix of obj, which matches how this does it. And they seem to have capitalization, so I don't think that's going to hurt it. I also should double check with Eqzip if the model file is actually being exported properly. So let's do that real quick. D drive, games EQ, tools, Eqzip. Let's go and open up. It's just right here. Tutorial. And let's view it like a list. Where is up? You see this? There's no mod files being added. So we're not done. That's probably why it's not working. I don't think the obj prefix is necessarily needed. We'll keep it there just in case. How's that texture back there moving? Oh, you're asking how I'm making that work. So I've figured out a few, I think there's some other ones. Or maybe not, they're not animating right now. I've been messing with things. Like this right here, you'll notice I'm trying to get environment files and stuff to work too. So what I'm doing in Blender is this file has in its materials a bunch of properties. And one of them is the max waterfall, which has some bonus parameters, which include sliding. And that's what basically makes the thing animate. And I could actually try to fix the animation that it's doing right now. Like you'll notice there is a animation to left to right. I think to fix that, we need to change how the slide is, or we need to rotate the object. I'm actually curious. Let's rotate it on the z-axis 90 degrees. Come on. Rotate z 90. No. Rotate x 90? No. Rotate y 90. Yeah, let's just do that. And we'll tweak the scale like that. I'm curious if that'll fix the shader, because I just rotated the object. If not, it's pretty much set with these slide parameters that I've added. Nice, so it could make a waterfall or even a background sky with a slow enough slide. Yeah, what I've learned, and I'm still like refining it, is pretty much all the cool effects that you see in EQ are being set with what's, with a shader and different params. And now that I have Blender set where you can do, all these types of params inside of it, it just generates it on conversion. Technically, with you using like 3D Studio Max and stuff, while you're waiting on me, what you could do is go into the material directory, right? Like you have your object that you exported. You could write this by hand and essentially use my new EQ zone importer and define various params. Like, you have your M export, which is going to be referencing, what MTL exports out. So like if we look at this file real quick, deep, you can see like, for example, there's a new material called lava. Well, you'll notice over here, I also reference that material of lava, and I actually define what the shader is. In this case, I'm saying set it to opaque max C1 underscore 2UV. And then I'm also defining some bonus, I call them E. That's really me. I'm like inventing some of these terms, but like E is a environment property of sorts. Anyways, and you could just write these by hand. But in my case, I have them baked into the material inside of Blender. So I can just tweak them on the fly as I look at different objects, you know? The other field is flag, and that actually is what makes it permeable or not. That flag, though, I believe is right here. So you'll notice it says waterfall. No, it's not there. Where is the flag being set? I actually forget. I think that's done on the triangle basis. So you can't set flags, I don't think, as easily as I can. I don't know if I can convert that to like a meta file. But anyways, we need to figure out how to make the OBJ get exported real quick. So we can see here in mod, there is a write function, and it is expecting from the Lua state data and bone assignments. This is what I pinned earlier. In fact, this is what I need to do. Okay. So we're doing an OBJ import, getting the bones and assignments, and then we're creating a mod write. So basically, I've gotten most of this right, but I missed a step. So I'm gonna need to do that real quick. Okay, so in main command, we have region and mod. In the mod file, when we discover that the model has not been imported yet, which is right here, we need to add this code and say, take the source file, which should exist. We need to verify that actually. It's going to be lines 1. I think we can just do it in line. So we could just say lines 1. I don't know what dir is. I think dir is the directory that it's trying to load from. Yeah, which in our case, I guess we can just leave it. I don't think dir is actually defined. Yeah, dir is unfortunately used for loading the Q directory. That might be okay though. We may need to put this out of this function list actually, which means we need to strip out the OBJ part, because yeah, let's do that. So you can see down here, I'm attempting to save all these different files. We're going to add a new one. Which is going to be based on this info. And what we're basically going to say is for I equals, what is it? Essentially the same as when we loop right here. Equals 1 models do. And then we can take this part and I think that's right. Okay. So what are you currently working on? Reads the object MTL file, getting special effects from the MTL. That actually I worked on earlier. Possibly. Let me. Possibly. Working on some EQ stuff at the moment. What I'm working on right now is basically linked objects. So like this file right here, right? This cube may look ordinary enough, but this cube actually is linked, meaning the data for this, you can't actually change in this file. Instead, it's being defined on a third-party file right here. So like this object is in its own blend file called box right now, box.blend. Actually, I think it's called box.blend. I could be wrong. Anyways, so when I define this data, it's being instanced in its own file. And during the import, I'm taking that file and discovering that it's a linked library file. And then I'm loading the external blend file and exporting it as its own object. And why I'm doing all this work is now I'm creating basically external links. I'm going to start with zone-based external links. So like if you have an object you're going to use 20 times, instead of having 20 objects defined in your geometry, you can define it once and reference it 19 times or 20 times. And yeah, save on triangle count. Then when you have globals, which I'll add later, you can do the same thing. It's the .mod file system of EverQuest. But yeah, related to the special effects, I added that a couple days ago. That's old stuff for me. I need to sit down and like define a lot more of that stuff. But for now, what I'm working on is going back to this. I'm trying to make it write the .mod files. So we're going to iterate the models, which is now, let's call this local model name equals models I. Now we're going to attempt to save model name. And we'll go ahead and say like as, and then it's going to be the same like obj underscore blah, right? I think so. Let's try model name dot mod inside Eqz. Well, that's implied. So we're going to import models I, which is model name. From dir, that's not right. Object import, can we import? We do this earlier. We have an obj import, which is calling load the EQ directory. Where's the .obj loader? Here. Yeah, so it is dir still. Obj path is where it's importing from, which is model name, dir. That's correct. Why does it have a short name field in here? I guess in my case, it doesn't matter. That might be an error later, though. So anyways, we import the third-party file. Then we go ahead and start defining these data points. I don't like that it's using data, but we'll keep it that way. Then we go ahead and write the mod file to data. Not using mod name, we're going to use model name. Calculate the CRC. If that succeeds, then so this doesn't do error handling. If error, then error that mod write failed with error. Okay. So S has to be successful at this point, but we'll still do an if S. Okay. How about if not S, then and that takes out this chunk. Okay. Directory position equals error. Ew, is he returning a data that is not error? Fuck, I think he is. All right, so we'll do this. But so what's the point of S? I don't know. What is the point of this error? He doesn't do Lua, right? Okay. Then if not S, then N error EQG write mod failed, no result. Okay, now we can take this out. We can take out the return. We don't need this message pop-up. We don't care about rewrite and inserting. We just need this to write the file. Okay, in theory this works. Let's see. End of file. I missed an error, or end. Where? 229? Oh. It doesn't sound right. End. For X do this end. If not, then end. I could totally live with having to manually type something effects if I had to. Heck, maybe I'll learn some 3DS scripting to streamline it. Yeah, dude. I mean, eventually I'll work on plugins for Maya in 3D Studio Max. But of course, what I want to do first is polish it and kind of get it working with Blender. Mainly because I have Blender and it's not super difficult for me to work with. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of iterations to some of this work. Like, I'm still making sure like these definition files that I've been making make sense. But what I'm doing is I have a convert script, right? And the convert script is loading Blender, taking a target file, and then loading my convert script, and basically turning the blend into .objs and .text files. So that step you could do in any other third-party tool, right? You could export to OBJ, and then you can also define those text files. The part that you need to use in my tooling, though, is my new CLI EQGZI import command, which you basically point it to the primary zone file object, and then you export it to wherever your EQG is. The only part that's sensitive is you probably always want to make sure that you run EQGI import with the directory of tutorial.object having all the other files referenced. All textures need to be in the same directory too, by the way. That's more of a side effect of just how it's written. I could fix that eventually, but for now, it's cleaner just to have it as is. Anyways, but yeah, this is the command you'll need. And then it's just a matter of defining all these bonus definitions. And I mean, you could do this now with the classic EQG zone importer, but you literally have to go to every triangle and define, or every material, I'm sorry, and define all these different properties by adding them by hand. So every time you export or you do an import path, it technically keeps the material data, but it doesn't. Like there's bugs with how it's written. Anyways, long story short, I'm fixing it. I'm making it where all of the data that EQG zone import uses is now versioned. Like, you know what I mean? They're raw text files or OBJs, and you can just run my converter script, and it'll just take A and make B. That's the whole point, you know? That's the plan. Anyways, back to my ever so fun work, I need to figure out what I screwed up with this EOF problem. Apparently, I'm adding an end without... See, normally I'm doing s comma data. Like, what did I just add on this bottom chunk? You can see here I added a for do, if end, if end, if end. That all looks complete. Up here, I added the new objects. If, for, do, if, end, for, end, if, end, if, end, if. Ah, there it is. That's my problem. Attempt to index local f, a nil value. So object has a bug now on line 62. It's trying to read a. F is asserted based on opening XPath. But XPath is failing. Oh, it's trying to oport. Path is tutorial b.tur? Yeah, okay. That is... Oh, let's do this. If model name... Is it contains... I forget how... I think it's string.find... Lua string find, I forget. Yeah. I should have just did it. Model name equals has .tur. Because I don't think Lua has suffix string search thing. Yeah, it's really gross. You have to do a sub bullshit. I don't care. You know, also I could just start at 2 because it's always going to be index 1 for the terrain. It's probably easier. Let's see. Index local f. Okay, so attempting to save object underscore cube.object as object cube.object.mod. I need to strip out the .obj, but whatever. Starting import from object file path object underscore cube.object. Okay, so what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to simplify how we're impending models. In fact, we can take out the .object check here, and when we insert it, no, let's keep that. Can we remove that easily? Isn't there like a replace? Yeah, guess G sub. So let's try this. .g sub. We want it at the beginning of the file. Is it literal? Ew. Let's try G sub. Isn't there a Lua? No. Let's just try literal. Okay, so it's going to be object. Replace this with nothing. We'll know this almost immediately when you run convert. G sub is failing. String.g sub. Oh. I didn't press you. Okay. Attempting to save cube.object as cube.object.mod. Starting import from object format from fath cube.object. Found object file with 46 lines at cube.object. Now it tried to concatenate local string and failed in object line 83. Y is short name defined, and okay, so I need to pass the name short name, and that's where it's failing. So here we just put short name. Okay, so now let's open up Eqzip again. And there's the cube.object. I needed to have .mod though. In fact, let's do a replace. What does Broodlands objects look like? You have like kfacade.mod. So we got to take out the object suffix. And we also need to gsub it. Taking out .obj and replacing it with nothing. So attempting to save cube as cube.mod, starting import of cube.mod. Cube.mod, no such file or directory. Wait. Import.obj. Attempting to save cube as cube.mod. Starting import from object cube.mod found. Okay. Now let's go to the EQ directory tutorial. So cube.obj. Why am I not saving? This file is getting like gross now. I have to clean it here soon, but I can make it from fresh. Model name is supposed to take out obj, but it's not. Attempting to save. Let me just double check this. Attempting to save cube as cube.mod. We import, then we say write. It's right here. Okay. Now the question now becomes, if I go back to this file, I need to make sure I'm loading. What? Did it not write the file? Oh, the ter file is getting fucked. Interesting. What did I break the ter file? Do you think it's because models? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take this whole chunk out for a moment. Okay, I'm starting to get some like remnant data. Like object cube.object cube.mod is called cube. Yeah. Because eventually I need this to look like here, which is obj underscore blah dot mod. Okay. What I'm curious about is if we go back to the Eqz now, which by the way, is there a refresh button? I don't think there is on this tutorial. .ter, if I take these files out, reload. Oh, yeah. Damn it. Delete, yes. Save, open after conversion. Yeah, see, it's not exporting the .mods because it's never learned that. A problem I'm having, though, is I think I need to write the zone data after. Like this. Let's see. So now we have cube.mod and we have the zone, but look, the ter file got removed. Why am I deleting a ter file on right directory? I don't know if I actually need to do this step. I think that's what's breaking it. There we go. So now we have the ter file, this is cube file. If we come back to here, we got two instances. We got to fix that still. I don't know why that .obj file is still there. We got to figure that out. That's probably cube.mod needs to have prefix because we now strip it. You see here model name stripped and model name stripped. Okay, so honestly, I should have just let's just like, instead of having to put all these obj checks everywhere, let's take all of them out and just make it so it's required that obj is used in the external file. And just in case this is an extra headache, we're gonna version this file real quick. Not commit, just version it. So that when I take these out, if I regret this, I can take it out again. Okay. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and take this object out real quick. And we're going to go ahead and close this file. We're going to open up a new Blender file. We're going to go into the ROF tutorial directory. We're going to go ahead and delete box.blend. We can go ahead and remove cube.blend as well, objects, because they're going to be gone. Okay, so we got a new general object. It's this cube, right? It's this amazing little cube. Just because it bothers me, I'm going to up it by Z1. We're going to call this cube something new. We're going to call it like object rar. Okay? And we're going to save it as the same thing, which is objrar.blend. Save. Let's go ahead and give it a material. We're going to call that material the rar material, I guess. And let's go ahead and give it a texture. How about of a swamp? There we go. Nice green blocks, right? So we're going to go back into Blender. We're going to go ahead and hit File, Link, find this object, find its mesh. Notice the mesh is called Cube. I think that needs to be tweaked, which I think I can just name it here. Okay. So now we have this object.rar, and it is a linked object, meaning you can't touch any of this data. But if we z up one and let's move the y by like 3, or wait, -3? Sure. So now we have this cube sitting here that's being imported from an external location. If we come back here and run convert, oh, I still have some OBJ crap I gotta take out, so let's do this. I think that's it. Okay. So in theory, what I just did will load the EQG into tutorial B. It's called cube.mod. I think that's the old one actually. Let's review the output. Did I save? Yes, okay. Found object.rar as inject1, adding them in. Yep, doing all my territorial texture environment crap, and then importing object.rar. Looks successful. Found material rar, but still, I think the write failed because there should be an obj rar in here. I refreshed this, didn't I? Okay, so that should not be in there. Let's run it again real quick just to double check this. So, tutorial. There is no obj.rar. Now, what about you? Can you see the referencing proper? Yeah, so you can see it's obj_rar.obj. That's wrong though. It's not .obj. It's supposed to be .mod. Let's think about this real quick. All right, yeah, dude, have a good one. If you're still around. I am, as you can see, just muddling through it. Trying to figure out the next step. And apparently I'm going to need to stop soon. What time is it? It is... how long have I been streaming? Just over an hour. Usually I try only stream for like an hour-ish. I'm kind of getting into a good stop point. I do want to kind of finish those. Finish my final step with this model importing. Which essentially what I need to do is when I'm loading in the mods, arguably, I should strip out the object part here. And do it here. So I'm loading the file. The file is referencing the OBJ file, right? So we're like, we're about to import let's do this. Okay, so now when I import it, we're going to actually give it the extension .mod. And yeah. So now we got this .mod file. When we do this part, we need to take out the .mod and put .obj, or nothing actually. because when we export and import here, we're adding it by hand. Bad argument insert 152. What did I mess up here? Okay. So what I did there, object_var.mod, object_var, which references object_var.mod, right? So that's good. This, ideally, it does not export the object_var, but once we do, we should be in a good shape. Let's see. Found object file, object_var.mod, object, attempting to read. Okay, so where is this failing? We're trying to save here. See, attempting to save object_var as object_var.mod. I think it's because data is being written, but I'm actually not putting the data into the EQG. So dir, I need to append dir. I really hate the name dir, by the way. So int dir ent name ter zone. This is it loading external or existing stuff. But you can see here it has a name pairing system for each directory. What is dir names even doing, by the way? By_name is taking each entity's name, finding its position. I see. So that's like a sorter. And it's sorting multiple times, by the way. I probably need to fix that. But because we're adding it here, what we probably should be doing is putting it right here. And now what we need to do is say like dir and then model name dot mod equals data. I think it might be that simple. Let's see. So let's reopen tutorial. There is no object data in here. Why not? Attempting to write get dir pos terek. Oh. Get dir pos? I don't know if terrain name even has a directory position. Table index is nil. Yeah, that's what I thought. I need to figure this out. I'm kind of getting distraught though. Because this whole system is just getting ugly. So I'm going to mess with this later. Anywho, if you've been watching, thank you. I'm almost there. The way I'm exporting the .mod file, I need to see if I can figure it out so that I can append to dir. I mean, I feel like I can do this really quick, but I've said that a couple times. Like you can see here, dir is pos. Pos is defined on object import. I think I can just append it to the end. I don't like this whole pos crap. Oh. Oh. This is what I need to do. The problem though is, where is pos even being defined? I think it's just the position of directory +1. So in theory, I could do this. But where's the data set with this style? Because look, this is during an import. What I need is the right. It's loading up the directory in EQG. So if we go to EQG dot, isn't there a CPP for that? No, fuck, that's his outsource shit, Louis EQG. So, okay, open directory equals whatever the directory is. Open directory is never used after that, okay. Let's try this. By name equals data. Is that right? And then int. What is int? How is int defined? It's in directory. Directory is defining int. Because it looks like he has two tables going on. One table is setting the position, and the other one is setting the name. And then the name has the position. See here? By name with name is the position. But then And get directory pos is the last index. I'm slightly still confused. So like you can see here, ter name is based on get directory position in dir, right? And directory of position equals position name equals this. While position is greater than directory. Don't fully get what that's doing. That's probably one thing I need to learn. Let's do something like this. Okay. I'm in this loop where I'm like, I don't want to stop until I finish this, but then I... Okay, so let's do something like directory of pos. Pos is based on... How the fuck is it saving data? It says I should be just dumping these because it's really confusing just by so this is definitely one step, right? And by name is supposed to equal pos. In theory, I don't think this is right, but we can try it. Local pos undefined. Which makes sense because get dir pos. So I'm loading the file right here, and then pos is a local file. If pos is less than dir, why does it say pos doesn't exist? It totally does during main command. Yeah, it's right here. So if we go back to my mod file in writing, I think we even just say pos +1. Attempt to index global by name is not declared in this scope. During the loader, by name is loaded. Wow. I think this is just not written for this. I got to sit down, review this. Ugh. Anyways, that was 20 minutes of me just trying to figure out how the hell he's doing that crap, but